Alright, hey everybody, I want to do a video tonight on wheel settings, and I had done one a few months ago, and I wanted to update it because I have learned some things, tried some different stuff, feel like I've got something that's a little better, so I wanted to share it with everybody. Let me go through some basic stuff here, and these are things that haven't changed, and I'll get to the stuff that has changed from the last time I did a video. I use a paddle shifter. I do not have a standalone shifter. I do believe, from what I have seen from racing against other people, there are some advantages to a standalone shifter. It seems like you can get a better launch on restarts, and you can do some things with it where you use the clutch to throw it in a neutral, or maybe just throw it in a neutral in general, I don't know, and that way you can save a ton of gas, is my understanding. So there are some advantages to having a shifter there, but I do not have one, so I use the paddle, and if you're using the paddle, you don't really need the clutch, so I have the clutch off. The effect strength is how much you feel the effects, whether it is the bumps hitting the wall, the difficulty or resistance to turning the wheel when you're driving a car that's maybe tight going into a corner. That's what the effect strength is. I want to be able to feel the effects without it being cumbersome. So for instance, I want to be able to feel some resistance turning into the corner if the car is tight, but I don't want the effect to be so hard. I want to be able to feel it if I rub the wall, but I don't want the vibration to be so much that it like jerks the wheel out of my hand. This is what works for me. I would encourage you to run whatever is comfortable for you, and but because this works for me, you may run something that's different because you have a different style of driving, and it may be because you have a different brand of wheel. I'm not sure if this has the same, it works on the same scale for all wheels. I'm running a Fanatec wheel. If you have a Thrustmaster or a Logitech or something else, you may want to run that effect strength clear up there, and it may work fine for you. So all of this is personal preference, but I'm just sharing some reasons why I've got it, and I think it's more important to understand the philosophy of it than to mimic my actual settings. I have the impact effects on because, again, that's something I want to be able to feel when I hit something or run over something or do whatever. I have the centering spring on. When I first started racing, I did not have it on, and I turned it on, and it definitely took quite a bit of adjusting to get used to it, but I found that made me more consistent. What a centering spring is it's a spring that's going to pull the wheel back to the center. So if you turn left, you're going to feel a resistance that's going to want to pull it back to the middle. Now, it's only going to want to pull it back to the middle. It doesn't want to keep pulling it, or if you turn right, it's going to pull it back to the middle. That resistance seemed like it made me more consistent, and it also helps when you're coming off a corner, you don't overcorrect it because you got a spring that wants to pull you to the middle and then kind of stop, so you don't tend to overcorrect coming out of corners when you got the centering spring on. The steering dead zones, I don't have any dead zone. I actually don't know anybody that runs a dead zone. If you have a dead zone, what it is it means you can turn the wheel here, and you may be turning the actual wheel, but there's no input into the game. I don't know anybody that runs that, but if you want that, maybe you're a little, I don't know, feel like you have some knee-jerk reactions and turn the wheel when you didn't want to. Maybe it's beneficial. I don't know anybody that runs it. I don't run it. Now let's get into the things that I have changed since my last video. Let's start with the steering sensitivity, and that is exactly what it says. That is how sensitive the wheel is to your inputs, okay? I run this as high as I can run it and still feel like I can keep the car under control and stable. And what I mean by that is if I move this one click up and try to go down a straightaway, I may feel like I've got the wheel perfectly straight and not moving it at all, but it's almost like any micro movement at all in the wheel and you've got the car wobbling all over the place. And I just didn't feel like I had it as under control when I wasn't as stable, so I backed it off to where I did feel like I had things, well controlled. And again, this is my setting. This is a Fanatec wheel. You may be at a completely different point along here as far as what works for you, especially if you've got a different brand of wheel or something. Now let's talk about the steering range, and this is something else that is different. And when I say steering range, the throttle sensitivity, and the brake sensitivity is all going to be the same concept as to why I have them the way they are. I'm going to go to the test sensitivity, and I want you to watch the ball that is there, or dial, or whatever it is, and watch the webcam here, okay? So if I turn the wheel, you'll see as I'm turning it, the ball is moving. That's not a surprise. That's what should happen. But watch what happens when I get clear over to the right, okay? I am still right there. That is as far as the wheel goes. I've got this wheel set as 270 degrees is the maximum turning angle. But when I'm at the maximum turning angle, I am also at the far right of the steering. Okay, so that means that there's no dead area. There's no time where I am turning the wheel and there's not an input into the game. When I've turned the wheel as far as it will physically go to the right, that is turning, or to the left in this case, that is turning the car as hard as it will go to the left. Now watch, as soon as I even bring the wheel back just a little bit, you'll see that dial move. See it? So it is, as I call it, linear. There's no dead zone here, okay? Now if I go back, and let me illustrate what it's like when there is a dead zone. Let's change that steering range, and let's go down here. Now I'm going to turn to the left. And as I'm turning to the left, okay, now, where is it? Right there is as far left as the input on the game goes, but watch how far I can still turn the wheel. See, I've got all this input where nothing's happening. So you've already got the wheel maxed out as far as, or the game maxed out as far as how much the car can turn to the left, but you got all this area in the wheel where you're not moving it at all. I don't like that. I like it to be linear. As long as I am turning this wheel, I want there to be input going into the game and making the car turn more to the left or more to the right or whatever direction I'm going. So I think that's where I was. Brake sensitivity and throttle sensitivity are the same concept, okay? I want it to be to where I am pushing the throttle down, and I'm going to move the PC down here so you can see my foot and hopefully get the pedal, and do the same thing with the pedal and the little dial or ball or indicator, whatever there is on the sensitivity. So let's see if I've got this lined up. It's not great, but I think we can make it work. So I am going to push the pedal. I'm going to do the same thing here. Test sensitivity. Watch watch my foot, and watch the little ball or dial indicator there. I'm pushing, and it's moving, and I'm at the top. Okay. So that is full throttle. Now watch. I back it off a little bit, just a little bit, and it moves. Okay. That's what I want. I want it to be linear, okay? So now I can do the same thing with the brake here, and the brake isn't as big a deal, and the brake, at least this set of brake pedals, doesn't have a hard stop, okay? So you can kind of play around with the brake sensitivity. I don't think, on my set of pedals, there's not a hard stop like there is the throttle. But let's do the same thing here, and I'm hoping, yeah, you're able to see me move this here, I think. Let's go back and change the sensitivity. Let's change this throttle sensitivity up. Now let's do it, okay? Now watch, here we go, and that's full throttle right there. And I got all this play. So I am already at full throttle and got all this movement in the pedal. I don't like that. I like it to be linear. Now, there may be an advantage to this. If you're at a track where you just barely burp the throttle and want to get right back in the gas and want to go immediately to full throttle, maybe there's an advantage to cranking that sensitivity up, because you don't have to physically move your foot as much to get the full throttle, but you have all this play at the end, and I don't like that. So I guess there are pluses and minuses to it, but that's my preference, and that's kind of the philosophy of what I've got. And I would encourage you to play with it to see what works for you, but I would start with the concept of adjusting this sensitivity to wherever you need to make it to where it's a linear movement, as I call it, as long as you're pushing on that pedal or turning that wheel, that's giving input into the game, that you don't have a dead zone. Now I'm going to exit without saving, because I fooled around with it and I don't want any of that stuff saved. but I will pull it up here again just so everybody can see it in case anybody does want to mimic my settings. But the things I've changed from my last video are steering range, steering sensitivity, brake sensitivity, and throttle sensitivity. And I hope that explains why I have changed them and why I've got them the way they are. I do feel like it helped me to pick up speed, especially when I changed the steering sensitivity. When I moved that steering sensitivity up, I felt like I could get a car to turn into a corner much better because the steering was more sensitive, and it seemed like it for lack of a better word, the game accepted the input better when I moved that sensitivity up. So I hope that helps everybody. I would not necessarily say that these are a one-size-fits-all settings, but I hope you understand what the settings do and what you may be looking for when you're adjusting it. Please share with me what you think. Share with me what your settings are. If you've got any other tips or tricks or advice on settings, please leave it in the comments to help out the other racers. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll end this like I always do by telling you guys to have a great day and hope this video was of great benefit to you.